All right, welcome everyone to MVP Office Hours. This is Jackie Travieso. I'm also joined by Dale, he and I are co-hosting or facilitating this call for you today. Jared was not able to make it. He will be missed today. Today is our 99th episode on the ninth day. On the ninth day of the ninth month. Pretty catchy there. And that was not planned. I think it just happened.
Right. Exactly.
So glad everyone is able to join us today. We've got some good stuff for you. Before we kicked off this call, I wanted to touch on some Dreamforce recommendations, especially for those who this coming Dreamforce may be your first time attending, or maybe you attended last year and kind of were overwhelmed by the fire hose of information that is Dreamforce. So I thought we might just kind of share a couple of tidbits, and if you have questions about Dreamforce, we can certainly talk about those. But before we kick off the meat of this Agenda Builder just went live this week. Hopefully you've all had a chance to grab some of your sessions. One of the things that I wanted to share is that the sessions themselves are recorded, but the theater sessions that are held for the most part in the admin meadow are not recorded. You cannot also actually register for those. You can bookmark them on your agenda. Those are kind of my priorities since they're not recorded, they're live, they're short, sweet, incredibly helpful information. Those are the ones that I always make the priorities. In addition to that, I do not believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dale, the roadmaps I don't think are recorded either.
No, I don't believe they are. So if they're not already full, get them.
Yep.
But they are doing multiple. It does look like they are doing multiple sessions of the same roadmaps.
Cool.
For a couple of them at least.
Yeah. So the admin meadow is kind of like where all the live action is going to take place. And this is a great place for you to get some one-on-one time with other MVPs, user group leaders, representatives from Salesforce, other Salesforce partners. So this is a really good place to just have some conversations, see some demos, ask for some help, and just strike up conversations with people. And then one of the new things that they're doing this year, if you haven't heard, it's called Automation Station, and it's going to be a live requirements gathering opportunity, turn those into a process, and then what does that look like when you sit down to build it in Salesforce? So a lot of that kind of that BA stuff to get things going. So I'm definitely participating in that, see what kind of tips I can pick up. And I do know that they've also said that they're going to have tools that they're going to share with us. So I don't know if that means templates or other types of resources, but anytime somebody says tools, I'm there. So Dale, do you have any other insights that you want to share, or Eric?
Wear comfortable shoes. And also, since Amanda's here on the call, also external batteries, external chargers. She just tweeted a little bit ago. Any external power sources you can get your hands on, bring them and keep them as charged as possible, because your devices are going to be going on overload for a week.
Yep. And make sure you have all of the right cords that go to those devices. I found myself with a loaded battery, but no way to plug it in. Oops.
This is Eric jumping in. One thing that I saw they're going to be doing in the admin meadow are many different charging stations, which those of you who have maybe been searching through Moscone for a place to plug in, hopefully all the charging stations that they're going to be putting through the admin meadow are really going to kind of reduce the weight on being able to plug to a wall jack.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be super.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started now that we've got some tips under our belt. And as you guys think of things as we spend this hour together, please share. Absolutely. Dale's going to run our slideshow. Go ahead, Dale.
And Christy Guzman would like to point out that they will have charging stations at the Map Anything booth.
Oh, sweet. Sweet,
yes.
sweet, sweet. Thank you, Christy.
Yeah, nice move, Christy.
All right, so we've got Dreamforce October 4th through the 7th. You have that on your calendar, hopefully. And if you are looking for information about different Salesforce events, world tours, circles of success coming to cities near you, you can go to salesforce.com/events and find that information. Let's see here. So if this is your first time as attendee to MVP Office Hours, this is an opportunity for an open discussion, and we hold these calls twice a month on the first and third Fridays. You can put that on your calendar. There is never a question that is too big or too small. Please, if you have a question, ask it, even if you think it is the most elementary of questions or the most complicated of questions. If we've got somebody on the line who can answer it, they'll dive in, no problem. If it's something that we need to maybe look into or find a resource for you, we'll definitely work to get you that information and make that connection through community on our MVP Office Hours group. So today's meeting is being recorded. We do post it on community and Twitter. So if you need to jump off and want to jump back on and listen to the recording, you are certainly welcome to do that. If you haven't already, please put yourself on mute so we don't have any feedback. And again, please just feel free to ask questions. You can use the raise your hand in the chat widget, which will probably be easiest, and then we'll call on everybody and work through everybody's questions. And as you're asking your questions, we'll just ask if you wouldn't mind announcing yourself so we know who we're talking to, and the same with if you're responding, announce yourself too. So today's special guest is Eric Wu. Eric, we're so glad to have you on the line, and really looking forward to your perspective, because I think you bring something special that we have not had a chance to talk about in the past. So I'd like for you to go ahead, if you can, just introduce yourself, give us your background, and kind of the things that you are able to address here today.
Absolutely. So I'm so excited to be joining and talking about this, because some of the things that that I find myself talking to a lot of people in the Salesforce ecosystem are really some personal passions of mine. So, you know, I'm a co-founder of a company that actually builds products for the Salesforce ecosystem. Specifically, we're the makers of the TaskRay project management app. And we founded the company with a very strong focus on the AppExchange and the ecosystem. We build all of our products 100% native to the platform. And we've been doing this for the last 6 years. But prior to that, I had been in a number of startups. I had worked kind of in many different aspects of the technology industry, and really find entrepreneurship, seeing kind of new ideas blossom is a personal passion of mine. And so, you know, of course, that helped me build Bracket Labs and the TaskRay product. But I love working with other people. I love helping other entrepreneurs, or even people who are thinking about entrepreneurship. So, you know, the areas that I feel like I can really maybe offer some help today, you know, thinking about building a business around the AppExchange, specifically building products or apps, thinking about entrepreneurship in general, thinking about, you know, kind of navigating the partnership with Salesforce. This is something that as a Salesforce customer, you probably don't see a lot of, but, you know, there's tips and tricks for sure about being a successful partner with Salesforce. And I definitely have bumped my head on a few things, and hopefully could share ideas that would help you maybe avoid some of the mistakes that we have made in the past, as well as kind of optimizing for success. And then the last piece, you know, because of the product that we build, TaskRay, I find myself thinking and working on project management ideas quite a bit. And this one is maybe a little more general. So, you know, if you're on the call and you're thinking about project management in general, this is the kind of thing that I wouldn't say I'm an expert, because I don't know that anybody's an expert, but it's definitely something that I think a lot about. And you can imagine across all of our customers, we've seen a lot of different project management processes. And so it's the kind of thing that I love to see if I can help with on that as well. Did I miss anything in terms of introductory information?
Yeah, I think you've got it all. That is fantastic. and to kind of get this conversation started, when it comes to creating an AppExchange product, I know that, and people may not be aware of this, but there is the what I would call the public version of AppExchange, and then there's this kind of like hidden AppExchange that you kind of end up on when you're searching for certain types of solutions, but it's not, the solution itself is not published on AppExchange. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So, and actually, to make it even a little more interesting, there's even a third layer.
Okay.
Yeah, let's break it down. So, when I go to the AppExchange and I type into that search bar, something that I'm looking for, what comes back are the public listings. And so these are the ones that I think Jackie was mentioning, like right off the bat, the ones that probably most people are familiar with. And here we're seeing on the screen, everything that you're seeing there is being suggested, in terms of what might be a good fit for your organization or what's most popular in the AppExchange, et cetera. Those are all public listings. So this is, it's a company or an individual who has created a package. They've created a listing on the AppExchange, and they've gone through a number of steps where essentially Salesforce has said this is an okay public listing. And that is a security review, right? Salesforce will run every single app that will be publicly listed through a security review. And for those of you who have lived through security reviews, they're a quite rigorous security review. The other thing that if you're going to be a paid app on these public listings, I'm going to collect money for my app, then you need to have signed a partnership agreement with Salesforce. So you can rest assured as you look at these public listings, if somebody's saying, yeah, this is what I charge for my app, they've gone through security review. They've also entered into a partnership with Salesforce, which means, from a contractual point of view, Salesforce knows who you are. Salesforce knows what you're doing. Salesforce has approved it. It's really a valid use case, right? So that's the first layer. There's two layers below that are less obvious. And before we get to the deep, deep layer that Jackie was talking about, there's one intermediate layer, which is a private listing. And these are listings that will not show up. So if we were to search for something that was a private listing here in this AppExchange, AppExchange is not going to return it back as a search result. However, what we found out over the years is Google has no problem returning that back. So I'm trying to think of a private thing off the top of my head that we can pull up in Google. I know one for, how about do this, TaskRate Communities. Let's see if Google knows about our private listing here. Not yet. Oh, not yet. Okay, so this is one that we're working on right now. We're going to have ready for Dreamforce. As soon as Google stumbles across the page, they will index it and it'll come back here. And so oftentimes you'll land up on an AppExchange listing page, and in a bright yellow banner at the top of that page, it will say this is a private listing that is not publicly available. That being said, it is ready to be installed, right? It is the kind of thing that that oftentimes a partner who maybe hasn't passed security review but has customers who need that package, maybe a partner who is still negotiating their contract with Salesforce but has customers who are ready for that package, will you take advantage of these private listings? Because really these listings, in addition to being a marketing tool, are also a vehicle for getting this installed in your organization. So, you don't have necessarily the blessing of a security review on these private listings. You don't necessarily have the blessing of a Salesforce partnership that's in place on these private listings. But I know that there are very large, very successful, very good partners who are doing private listings for their apps for various business reasons or various logistical reasons, right? So if you're talking to a partner and they're directing you to a private listing and you have kind of done your due diligence, maybe you're putting it into a dev org or you're putting it into a sandbox to test it. Oh, there's one. There you go. So that's what the private listing banner looks like. But this is still a listing and still got a package attached to it. And really the only thing that's private about it is it won't show up in the AppExchange search. It does show up in the Google search. Then the third one, and so this is the one that I think that Jackie was thinking about. Anybody can create a package and create a link for a direct install. And this does not need to go through security review. It does not even need to be listed in the AppExchange, but it can be a full-blown app that is installed and runs inside of your Salesforce org. This one really does, you can almost think of it as analogous to the dark web, maybe with not a lot of nefariousness to it, but they're hard to find, right? Like, there's nothing in that URL for a direct install link that even identifies what it is. It's a direct install link that has some Salesforce ID strings in it, and it says package install, and I think that's it. But this is a very handy thing. We use these all the time, personally. It's a very handy thing for anybody who's deploying app to existing partners for whatever reason, or I'm sorry, existing customers, but for whatever reason it's not ready to go into the public AppExchange. And so in the case of TaskRay, we'll use these when we're doing minor releases. Let's say we're doing a bug fix or we're doing a minor enhancement that is not ready to go to our entire customer base, but is going to a specific customer who is verifying the fix for us or just has an issue that needs to be addressed. We will actually give them one of these direct install links. So these you're not going to be able to find. These somebody would need to send you. The other thing to know here is there are partners doing business this way as well. So because you don't have a listing in the AppExchange doesn't mean that you're not actively bidding and selling a package, right? So there's people out there that are kind of saying, the AppExchange is not where my customers are going to find me. Instead, imagine I'm in a very specific niche. I already know who all my potential customers are. It's a very small niche. I'm already marketing to those people. I don't need to be in the AppExchange. I don't need to have a formal relationship with Salesforce in terms of that partnership. I don't even need that security review because I'm going to walk them through, my customers through, the install of this package and the setup standalone. So those are kind of the 3 layers of packages that you might encounter for installing an app.
That's great. That's exactly what I was looking for. That private listing, I wanted the confirmation that there was no security review or any kind of Salesforce agreement. So, all right, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. Anybody else have questions about what Eric's expertise is or anything related to Salesforce? He uses the tool as the tool is.
Yeah. We're definitely Salesforce geeks inside of our business as well. So yeah, I know a lot about the Campaigns object, for instance. We have another app that works with the Campaigns object. So any of you who are using Campaigns and want to talk about campaign data structures or campaign setup, I'm happy to talk about that as well.
So we actually have a question in the chat from Sean Hickey. How do you get your app to stick out from all the other apps that exist? That is actually something that we think about quite a bit. That Christy, who's on the call, thinks about quite a bit as well.
So if you want to go to just the front page of the AppExchange, Dale, you're driving, right?
I am.
Yeah, just go. Let's look at the front page of the AppExchange.
Okay.
Actually, if you just go to AppExchange.com, let's look at that front landing page. One of the things to know about when you're kind of setting up your listing are all the different ways that the AppExchange thinks about and algorithmically generates this front page, right? So if you imagine your customer for your app kind of coming to the AppExchange as their solution starting point. And by the way, this is, in our experience, exactly what a good Salesforce admin, a good Salesforce consultant, this is usually where they're going to start. If they have a feeling that there's a problem that they've got that might have an app that fixes it, the AppExchange and landing here right on the front page is typically where they're going to start. So if you kind of keep that in mind as you build your listing, this is probably the first place, and by the way, the most cost-effective place where you can help it stand out. And so let's just kind of scroll down here on this front page and take a look at some of the things that people are doing here. Notice here those featured apps, those kind of full-size tiles, and here I'm looking at that Accounting Seed one that's kind of right in the middle there. Note that people are building something that is communicating very clearly what it is that they do, right? Let's just look at Accounting Seed right there. 100% native accounting. That 100% native is going to stand out for somebody who is kind of tied into the platform, who is thinking about it, right? It's very clear what it is they're doing. If you're looking for accounting, this is probably one of the first places you're going to stop. It's right there in the front page. But now that we get onto their actual listing page, there's some other things that you'd be thinking about that need to be emphasized on this. And one of those is, imagine that I'm a shopper and I've got a checklist of all the aspects of my problem that I'm trying to solve. At a glance, as fast as possible, I need to be able to look at this listing page and see if it's going to meet my needs. And so, as you think about how your app can stand out from the other apps, this is one of them. Think about what problem you're solving, and the person who has that problem, what is it that they're looking for? And as I look at this right away, I can see Accounting Seat's done a pretty good job, right? Imagine that I'm in Professional Edition, and I need to see if it works for me. Well, it's front and center there. I know that that's going to be true. Imagine that I've migration to Lightning, and I need to make sure that this is going to work inside my Lightning implementation. I see that it's right there. Imagine that I've got very detailed accounting pieces, right? It's not just that I need general ledger accounting. I've got to tie this into an ERP, or I need ERP. I've got to do order management. All of these pieces, Accounting Seat on this listing has made sure that they're emphasizing, they're anticipating as a customer the questions that you might be asking and trying to get you that answer as fast as possible. And along the way, you can see, there's room for a marketer to try to add some of that marketing juice, right? So, as I look at their blurb, that 2-3-sentence blurb right under the app by Accounting Seat right there, that little paragraph, get rid of the pain and suffering from broken sync tools and duplicate databases. Now, I know from having lived it, but I'm guessing their customers also know, before you look for a native solution, you're probably trying to sync QuickBooks. You're probably trying to sync Sage or Xero or whatever you're using for accounting. It's not native to Salesforce, but you've got data that is critical inside of Salesforce that needs to talk. And any of you on the call who have done any of those syncs know how painful that sync is, right? Know how complicated the technology is to get it to talk correctly. And then even in the best cases, I've got two databases. So which one is my source of truth? So from a marketing point of view, they understand not only the questions you might be asking, but they understand deeply the pain that you might be suffering. And they're trying to emphasize, hey, I know how to fix this pain for you. So to turn this into a more generic, really what we're talking about here, the first step in making your app stand out is really understanding the problem that you're going to solve and understanding very deeply why your app makes sense inside the Salesforce ecosystem. This is actually a pet peeve of mine because I do think you run into a lot of apps that haven't done that basic work, haven't really thought about what problem are we solving. Salesforce is huge. There's so many customers. This App Exchange really looks like a great opportunity. Let's just build something and throw it out there. Inevitably, what you end up with is a very poor app and an app that a lot of times doesn't stand out because they haven't thought about the very specific context of using this inside of Salesforce, and they haven't thought about the very specific needs of a Salesforce customer. And let's even go further on that. A Salesforce admin who is implementing this for their company, they haven't thought about those specific needs, the specific context, the specific checklist that admin is going through, the specific problem that admin is trying to solve. They haven't done all that homework. So there's what I would tell you. First thing is not even about the listing. It's not even about the app marketing. It's about, do you understand your audience? Do you understand the problem you're solving? Do you know the way that you solve it that's unique, right? And once you have those answered, really building this listing is a matter of thinking about things like search engine optimization. And Dale, if you'll click the details tab here for Accounting Seat, we'll talk a little bit about that. So that first page, I'll tell you, we've interviewed tons of customers and leads. That first page on the overview tab that we were just looking at is that's where most people stop, right? Only a very diligent buyer or shopper is going to even click this details tab. But here's a trick that we've learned over the years. Just because nobody's going to read this details tab, or very few people will actually get to the details tab to read it, just because you know that doesn't mean you should ignore it or just fill it with garbage, right? Because the other thing that you're really trying to think about is, imagine I go to the App Exchange and I type accounting into that search bar. How am I going to make my listing come to the top of everything else that says accounting? And it's going to be partially this details tab right here. This is another way that you can make yourself stand out in the search results by making sure that what is in this details tab is really relevant to your app, number one, but number two is anticipating some of the keywords that somebody might be searching for. Now, the AppExchange search algorithms are not nearly as sophisticated as Google. So AppExchange is not, saying, hey, I see these two words and therefore I can infer that there's a third word involved, anything like that. It's really as simple as, notice in that second bullet here from Accounting Seed, they're listing in that bullet everything that they think somebody might be searching for. Like, I'm a professional service and I need PSA. I'm doing project management and I need to do project accounting. They're anticipating and putting search terms in there so that any angle that their customers might be coming from, their search is going to come back in the results. And this is another good way. The other thing, and this is kind of, again, a tip that we've learned over the years, notice here that while there's a couple sentences and there's those bullets, in general, they're staying away from full sentences. If you remember that most people are not going to land here on the details page anyway, the ones that do are probably not going to sit and read an essay. And just because in the publisher for this AppExchange listing, you can write an essay, you shouldn't. Right? Keep it short and punchy. Keep those bullet points under the features where they've bulleted everything out. Again, imagine your customer showing up with a list for shopping. They really just be able to cross those things off and say, should I even be looking at this anymore? If they don't match all my needs, I'm not even going to go further. So make that as fast and easy and as low friction as possible for that shopper to be able to answer their questions and kind of get it. And then the last one, there's two other ones that I would kind of emphasize, and then I'll stop talking and see if I actually answer the question. Two other pieces to remember when you're trying to make your app stand out. Dale, if you want to jump to that reviews tab there, this is a big deal. That reviews tab, it's important not only for testimonials from existing customers who are happy and have been taken care of, right? This is for a shopper who's doing their homework. This is one of the places where you're going to stop. You're not even probably going to read that details tab, but you are going to go to the reviews tab. So you want to cultivate these reviews. And I think Accounting Seed, you can see 237 reviews with an average of 4.9. They've done a very good job of cultivating this. This means when you're working with your customers, asking them to review. It means not being afraid, by the way, of having a negative review. Notice that negative review front and center as well. We all know that there are customers out there that we're not going to be fulfilling. And so being able to show, this is real life stuff. This person has a complaint about Accounting Seed, and you can read that as well. These reviews really do matter. By the way, from a partnership point of view, they matter in a way that's not obvious, and that is Salesforce uses these reviews and the average ranking on these reviews to actually evaluate the partnership. So if Salesforce AppExchange team is, trying to think about, hey, who do we have that's a great partner in accounting? One of the first things they're going to look at is, okay, how many reviews and what's the average rating there at 4.9 of a solution? Is this somebody that we want to market? Is this somebody we want to refer to? Is this a good partner in general? That matters a lot for your Salesforce partnership. So you want to be cultivating these reviews. They really do matter. And for those of you who have ever bought an app on the AppExchange, I almost guarantee you've looked at the reviews, right? So this is something from an app maker's point of view that you really do want to pay attention to, and you really do want to think about a process for how do we ask our customers for reviews, and how do we get them to give us reviews that actually reflect their experience with our app. The last thing I'll mention, and this is coming straight out of the AppExchange marketing team, right? So with 6 years of experience, I've worked with these guys really closely, and I know exactly what they would do to answer this. And Dale is back on the overview tab. In addition to getting your words right, in addition to anticipating what your customer is doing right, notice here that Accounting Seed has a demo video that's linked here. And we don't need to run it, but I'm guessing they're following all the guidelines for good demo videos. It's less than 2 minutes. It's short and it's punchy, and again, it's going back to answering the questions that they're anticipating their customers are showing up with. They've also done all their work to fill in the screenshots. This is one, people are not going to go to the details tab, but they are going to look at your screenshots. I can guarantee it, right? And so in addition to having a demo video link there, they've got a number of screenshots up and running, and I bet you if we pull up one of those, Dale, if you just want to click on one of those screenshots, I bet you they've got, they've got a nice caption. They're telling you exactly what you're looking at when you're looking at these screenshots. These guys, even though they're Lightning ready, are not showing it in Lightning. I would tell you more and more you're going to see it be important to show screenshots in Lightning. But, in general, what we're talking about here on the overview is take advantage of every single facility that the AppExchange gives you to build out your listing. That's screenshots, that's videos. If it makes sense for your app, it's a test drive. Accounting Seed doesn't have a test drive here, but we get great results from using a test drive of our app directly linked to our listing. So that's another one to think about is, does it make sense for your app to provide a test drive? All of these pieces are built into the AppExchange as options for you to use, and so why wouldn't you, right? The AppExchange marketing team has published stats of people that fully fill out their listing and have all these things get tremendously better lead results than people who are only partially filled out, right? So this is another one that it's an easy one, really, because you know your product, you know what's going to be important for a customer to see. So make sure you're populating those. And then the other one is to know about is it's not just these screenshots and the videos, but you can attach white papers, you can attach links to knowledge bases, you can attach links to webinars. So there's a rich amount of content that you can put into your listing for that shopper who is really, she's doing all the homework and she's going through everything. You want to make sure that you don't have a gap there, right? You want to make sure that you can answer as many questions as possible. So by the time that shopper shows up as a lead on your app, you've stood out already enough to get that lead, but also that lead is very, that shopper already has all their questions answered, and it's really kind of the fine-tuning, and in the best case, it's taking an order, right? So I know that was a lot to digest. Let me pause and see if the person who asked the question, if that helped, or if you want to dive in on any of those details.
And Sean, if you do have any other questions, you can unmute yourself, and floor is yours.
No, that answered everything. Thank you very much. And I am a user of TaskRay and implemented that in our org, and it's going very well. So thank you.
Oh, awesome! I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
Hey, Eric, this is Jackie. You were talking about the reviews. I find that after I determine, first of all, is it going to work in the edition that I'm working in, the first thing I do is I go to those reviews and I read the negative reviews first, because I want to know what is it not capable of doing. What did somebody run into? And most importantly, how did that company address it? Did they address it? Did they resolve it? How did their customer support respond?
Yeah, and that's a great point, and it's something that we really pay attention to. You can almost think about those reviews as another communication channel with your customer. So anybody who brings up an issue in a review, as an app publisher, you should be on it, offering them help and offering them a response. And if it's something that you can't necessarily fix, and sure, we run into customers who buy TaskRay and then realize it didn't do exactly what they needed it to do, and that's in a review. It isn't necessarily going to get fixed for them, but at least responding in a way that lets them know, hey, you're heard. It's not necessarily going to be a fix for you, but here are some ways that you can address this. Always having that conversation goes exactly to Jackie's point. Jackie wants to make sure that when you see a negative review, it's not just being responded to with crickets, right? That the company is paying attention and they're interacting with their customers in a way that is a way that you would like to be interacted with.
And I never consider a posted negative review a showstopper. But again, it's how is it handled? What is it something that was posted maybe 4 years ago and is no longer an issue? So sure. I do like to see those. So I would highly recommend that those remain out there. I don't know if behind the scenes partners can delete those or remove them in some way, but I would say leave them out there because okay.
The only way that you can get a review removed is if it is breaking the acceptable use terms of Salesforce. So if somebody is, if somebody is writing something that is legally risky, if somebody is writing something that is offensive, then you can have those reviews removed, but you can't remove a review any other way.
Gotcha. Well, good to know. All right, looks like we have some other questions in the queue. Amanda, you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sure thing. As soon as you mentioned campaign, I got excited. We have been using, we have campaigns currently in our system that date back to, say, 2010, 2011. We have our campaign hierarchy set up so that we have a master campaign And then anything we do within that, we have a master campaign for each of our niches. And then anything we do for that niche goes in the campaign hierarchy under that master campaign. The problem with that is that we have, I can't tell you the number right now because I'm not in my org, but a ridiculous number of campaign members. We are way over our data limit.
I was just going to say, I bet your storage is in trouble. Yep.
It is out of control.
Yeah.
And other than starting to archive some of the older stuff, we have over 1 million campaign members right now. So do you have any suggestions on, other than starting to archive some of the old stuff, any suggestions on how to manage that?
Unfortunately, I don't. This is one where it's really just kind of a diligent admin cleaning process is the only answer. That or you eventually, this is where people start to think about marketing automation tools as well. Yep. At some point, you kind of stretch the limits, right? Okay. Yeah. So a lot of times we'll see customers they'll be diligently cleaning the campaign members in Salesforce, but leaving everything as is in their marketing automation system. It, of course, makes your reporting a little more complex, but this is just one of those ones. It's kind of a legacy problem from the way that Campaigns was built way back in the day. And Dale, did you have another idea?
Well, so I'm potentially facing that issue depending on a solution I'm working on right now for my company. But what kind of a governance policy do you have around the need to retain all of those records? Because if you do have a way, like a rule that actually supports you purging that information, obviously there's a need to do that. We're managing all of our outbound campaigns through a marketing automation tool. So all of our contacts and everything are ultimately stored there. I mean, Salesforce is still the base, but we're not eating into our campaign members aren't eating into our data yet. Depending on how I map out this solution, campaign members may become a thing, but part of the project is also really outlining what governance is, what does a purge process look like, what does all of that look like. So is there anything at your disposal that you can take advantage of to start to ease that burden?
Yeah, we sat down and said, okay, can we just get rid of anything older than 3 years that was just an email? Do we really care if someone clicked and opened an email 3 years ago? Probably not. It's not relevant to what we're doing now. And I think that was still only getting rid of, I say only, I think it was 400,000, maybe 300, no, it was 300,000 campaign members, which is a sizable chunk, but we're still going to be over our data limit. So I didn't know if anyone had any, in potentially talking to see if can we go 2 years instead of 3 years, and looking at what that difference might be.
I mean, there is that from a historical looking standpoint, but there's also, again, understanding what can you do for the future so that you can start to be proactive about some of these issues. Yes, you're wondering, do we care about the person that opened one email 3 years ago? Does a low open rate potentially lead to business rules and a process that say, we're not going to communicate to this person anymore because we know we're not hitting them? Are there those types of things that you can start to throw in, actually use your data and information at hand to wrap process around it?
Okay.
I would jump in to add, this is actually a pretty, when you think about those governance rules and what might come about, you inevitably run into a campaign attribution calculation, right? Like this idea of, do we care that an email from 3 years ago just got a click? Does it matter to how we will further manage our marketing or further manage our sales process? That campaign attribution problem, and it really is a problem because you nailed it. Maybe I do care that an old email from 3 years ago just got an action. Maybe that does figure in. But essentially, you need to draw lines for yourself and say, yeah, in terms of our funnel, maybe I don't need even 2 years of it. Maybe I only need the last 12 months because my sense of what I do in my marketing mix is all geared towards a 12-month lead cycle, right? So in some ways, like this data problem is really maybe a forcing function for getting back into really looking at some of your marketing rules in general. How do we attribute value to our campaigns? How do we attribute sales or lead conversion or however you guys think about your funnel? Going back and really kind of digging into that data, I'm guessing you'll find we probably don't care more than 12 months out or 18 months. And yeah, we might be getting activity, we might be getting clicks, we might be getting engagement from those marketing activities, but we'll also trace it all the way to a customer and realize it didn't matter. And once you kind of free yourself of that, right, you say, well, I only really care about 12 months, then it allows you to draw that line and say, okay, we're just going to keep cleaning this thing and pruning it. Now, by the way, I know as I'm saying this, it's much easier said than done. And I've seen companies go through multiple year cycles of arguing internally about how the attribution to campaigns should happen. So you'll probably never get like the done answer. In fact, I talked to a guy who's got a degree in applied mathematics who spent 18 months inside of his company trying to actually derive the algorithm for what's true. And his end result was like throwing his hands up in the air and saying, I don't care anymore. Like, it's not a solvable problem. We're just going to go 12 months and we're going to go, everything is weighted the same. And he said, you know, when I threw up my hands and realized that, and then just drew like a level weighting across all of our tactics, he's like, turned out my answer was exactly the same as when I was doing really complex nonlinear weightings. So it turns out you can't overthink some of this, right? But yeah, like I just want to highlight, like part of what's going on here is not necessarily even the data. It's like, can you back up a little bit and look at your funnel, and do you even care about any of this data?
All right, that's good stuff. It looks like we've got Stuart has a question. Stuart, do you want to unmute yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Eric. So on Dale's screen, I assume this is Dale's screen that's still open here. Yep. I see customers also installed on the bottom, GeoPoint, TaskRay, etc. Some of them have icons that say Lightning Ready, and I'm wondering how did that icon appear? Is that something that Salesforce put on it, or is that something that GeoPoint and TaskRay put on there? And what does that mean? Is there some sort of certification from Salesforce that says, yep, this app is indeed Lightning Ready? And what does Lightning Ready actually mean to the customer?
That's an excellent question, and it's a great example of like a tip and trick for Salesforce partnership. Dale, would you click on the TaskRay listing, just because I know everything that's on there, and I'll talk through the answer here.
What did you do, start the company or something?
I not only started the company, but I think a lot about this particular problem. So notice here, right under that header, with the blue header, you see Lightning Ready, you see the edition it will support, you see the no limits little no sign, you see Salesforce One Mobile, and you see native. Getting these badges is a Salesforce thing. So Salesforce applies these badges to the app listing. Some of these happen based on how you fill out your listing. When you're building the publishing, so for instance, that group and up, that's a self-reported one, where when I'm doing my listing, I say, yeah, I will support group edition, and I will support everything above it. Others of these, like the Lightning Ready, the native cloud, those must be applied by Salesforce in response to a partner portal ticket. So if you've got a Lightning Ready app, but it doesn't have the Lightning Ready badge, open a partner portal ticket and tell support, I am Lightning Ready, and I need that badge applied to my listing. By the way, Lightning Ready is not a certification. It is kind of self-reported, but it is that your app will run inside of Lightning Experience with no issues. And for those of you who have spent some time working with Lightning and knowing kind of some of the things that went away when Lightning showed up, there were apps that are not Lightning ready. In fact, I think still in the App Exchange, there are apps that are not Lightning ready. When you run them in the Lightning experience, they will encounter either minor or major issues with their functionality. But as soon as you know you're Lightning ready, you can open that ticket and get the Lightning ready badge applied here. Let's see, Dale, if you'll scroll down, let's see if our Lightning components listing is on the bottom there. And it's not. There's one other one I want to highlight here. So Dale, if you'll go up to that search bar and see the drop down that says apps, you open that up to go to components, and then type TaskRay in there, and I'll just talk about one other badge here. And this is actually relevant to an announcement Salesforce just made yesterday. And the other one that I know that you have to open a portal ticket for is, see that Community Builder one? So this is one, more and more we're seeing people building out community sites using the different templates in the Community Builder, which is really just kind of a variation of Lightning. And so this is another one that you might want to open a partner portal ticket and ask for, which is specific that you will work inside the Community Builder. And really what this is another self-reported one. But essentially what you're saying is, when somebody opens up the Napili template and they want to add in my Lightning components to that Napili template to build a Lightning or a community site, that I will work with that builder. So this is an example of another one. And there's a whole bunch of them that are new. For instance, notice that the device support showing a phone and a tablet and a desktop monitor. The App Exchange team is working through adding even more of these, right? So it's another one that you just kind of always want to be paying attention. When you see one that's new that you don't have that does apply to you, it's almost always a partner portal ticket.
So I have a question actually to kind of piggyback on Stu's with Lightning Ready. So I just a couple of weeks ago got the green light from my VP to start exploring Lightning experience. Doesn't mean we're going to commit to it, but like I look at the mountain that is my org, and we do have quite a bit of Apex and a lot of Visualforce in one application. For the most part, everything else is declarative, and you know, like any good admin, I have a lot of URL hacks all over the place that I got to resolve.
Sure.
But and this is kind of your perspective and anecdotally with where you are in the App Exchange. Where is the balance right now of developers in general, of app developers in general, of focusing on Lightning versus still supporting those that might not be able to get off Classic for a while?
It's a great question. There's an interesting tension happening. App developers, well, I'm going to speak generally, and then I'm going to speak about us specifically. So app developers tend to follow the market. And right now, I think you've got a good number of companies that are exactly in the situation that you're in, Dale. They're looking at Lightning, they're evaluating it, but they haven't made the leap. And because the vast majority of the market has not yet made the leap, does it really make sense to spend dev cycles? Does it really make sense to spend marketing cycles on Lightning-specific pieces? And I think there's a good number of people who are answering no right now. That being said, if you go back to, when we were talking about how can you make your app stand out, one of the things that's really a use case for our customers is project management information embedded inside of other record pages. And here, if you imagine inside of TaskRay, I've got a project that's tied to a customer opportunity, and I'm working from that opportunity, I should be able to see information about that project summarized for me on the opportunity without having to go into TaskRay itself. That's all possible with Lightning. So we've actually got a very strong use case for Lightning, which has caused us to be kind of on the bleeding edge in terms of Lightning development. And what we're seeing is that once you've built it, Lightning, people who have made the Lightning jump are starting to appear more and more. To kind of give you some anecdotes about that, if you're a new Salesforce prospect and you're meeting with an AE for eventually a demo that's being delivered, that Salesforce demo is now being delivered in the Lightning experience. So what Salesforce is doing is every new customer that's signing up, they're defaulting into Lightning. And it's taken 12 months of that happening, but more and more we're starting to see new TaskRay customers showing up who have never worked in Classic. So it's slowly starting to roll in terms of the market. It's been a huge payoff for us in TaskRay because it has forced us to really get comfortable with the Lightning technology stack and understand how we're going to play inside of it. And then the last piece, and this is for anybody on the line who's thinking about apps in general and making yourself stand out in your Salesforce partnership, anytime that you are on the leading edge of Salesforce new technology, you have marketing opportunities with Salesforce, your partner, that would not be available if you didn't jump. And so as a, kind of a milestone example for our company, because we were ready with Lightning at the time of launch last year in August, we were featured in the global announcement of Lightning. We were the only ISV partner. And so my co-founder, Blakely, who's also a Salesforce MVP, was on stage with Mike Rosenbaum, who's the GM of Sales Cloud. She was on stage with Shauna Wolverton, who's the VP who ran the Lightning product. She was on stage with that announcement because we were ready and we had built and made that investment. Now, 12 months later, we're only now starting to see customers who are ready for it. But this is another strategy that you can think about. As a partner, Salesforce is looking for their partners to prove out this technology, to be ready to demo it, to be ready to show it, even if the market is not yet there. Because in many ways, Salesforce is creating that market. So, while Dale's company is thinking about what does this mean, and wow, this is, a pretty big challenge to actually transport ourselves, Salesforce is thinking about 2 years from now about, okay, once our customers have got Lightning ready, what's going to be next, right? And we're seeing that in the announcement that came today from the Lightning Bolt Communities Builder. We're seeing that from the AI pieces. A lot of things that Salesforce is thinking about in building are really not going to come into play in the market for a couple of years. That doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't play. It's really kind of a strategic decision about, even if the market's not there, does it make sense for you to be there? So hopefully that helps a little bit, Dale. But in general, we're very excited about it. The opportunities with communities and Lightning-specific components is a nice bridge, we think, right? Even though people in their mainline internal usage are not necessarily going to be Lightning, we're seeing more and more communities customers who are going to be Lightning on the community side and not Lightning internally. So having these Lightning components for them makes a lot of sense. Having TaskRay Lightning ready for them makes a lot of sense.
Right. Well, what's interesting, obviously at a much smaller level, but you mentioned that new Salesforce prospects, they're now getting all their demos in Lightning. Anybody who's looking forward to Dreamforce presentations, guess what? Everything's in Lightning. We had that mandate that all of our screenshots, all of our live demos. If you go to the admin meadow, the dev forest, and you ask the experts, all of the dev orgs in use will be in Lightning. Now, there's some of us who are hoping to crack it back to Classic because that's what we know. But yeah, everything's Lightning. So no, I appreciate that perspective from where you are on all of this, Eric. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm just curious, those of you on the call who are either app providers or building apps, I'd love to hear other perspectives about Lightning. How are you guys thinking about it? How are your customers thinking about it? This is always interesting to watch as Salesforce rolls out new technology. And of course, this is the biggest rollout that I think in the history of Salesforce.
We're only down to a small handful of people left, so I don't know if there's anybody there to answer that question.
I guess we're up on our hour.
I can say that we're not ready for Lightning because of a managed package that we have that we use mostly that is not going to be ready for Lightning for some time, and for that reason we're kind of handcuffed in a way.
That makes sense. So when you talk to the provider of that managed package, are they even thinking about Lightning, or are they just saying, yeah, it's not a priority right now?
Yeah, it's problematic.
Okay.
There's a lot to do in order for it to happen. So I think it is a priority, but they're just trying to weigh how things get done.
Yeah, and it absolutely is a ton of work, right? And even Dale's example of if you've got a fully customized, built-out classic org that's working just fine, there really has to be a lot of business value to make that switch to Lightning, right? Like even before you think about the app maker switching, like if your org is complex and built out and working, like you've really got to make a good business case to make the justification to switch.
And we just got the page layouts and the user interface and all the flow and everything working the way that users like it. So it is going to be hard to justify that to the user saying, hey, there's this whole new look and feel to everything now.
Right, yeah.
So
with our last few minutes, any other questions? Sorry, Jackie. I was just going to
No, not a problem. Because we are down to 1 minute for our end time. And actually, Eric, I wanted to thank you. This was really good stuff. I definitely learned a lot, reinforced some things that I already knew. So we greatly appreciate you sharing your perspective and your real-life experiences. And anyone who wants to follow Eric on Twitter, you can find him at EWU. You can reach out to him there. And
were
as
you
I
like
said,
fourth or fifth when Twitter came on? Were you like fourth or fifth in line to get that handle? How did you?
I looked at my Twitter number, and I'm over 1 million on my Twitter number, but I was early enough I could get a 3-letter. Yeah. But yeah, it's because one of the startups I was in, we were actually working in social media, so I was a very early Twitter user. Yeah. So I wanted to note, anybody who's still left on the call, if it's not obvious, I love talking this stuff, and I would love to help you. So if if you want to talk through the specifics of your app, if you want to talk through the specifics of your Salesforce partnership, if you want to even talk about whether it makes sense or not, all these things I'm used to talking about, I love to see if I can help. That could be as simple as like introducing you to the right person at Salesforce that you should be talking to, or it could be going deep on, let's talk through all the mechanics of building this app. But these are the kind of things that I love to talk about. So please don't hesitate, reach out to me on Twitter, and we can find time to talk one-on-one if that makes sense, or whatever I can do to help you, I would love to do it.
Great, thank you, Eric. And as I had mentioned, today is our 99th episode, so that means that our next episode is our 100th, which is a huge milestone. And our special guest is going to be none other than the founder of MVP Office Hours. Dale, if you can flip our slide, please. Joshua Hoskins. So if you've seen his name or have met him, he is going to be our 100th episode special guest. So we are looking forward to having a chat with him about the what it took to get this going and the handoff and where we are today. And if you haven't met Joshua, he's an incredible person. I've met him probably 6 years ago. So really, really glad to have him in my circle of friends and network. So with that, we will bid you adieu. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you in the cloud. Take care, all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.